Maryland has lost over 15,000 federal jobs this year, the most in the nation. With a federal government shutdown looming, the stakes couldn't be higher for our state's workforce. Mike, Governor Wes Moore yesterday called for the federal government to focus on providing basic functions for people rather than accepting a government shutdown. Does that mean he wants the Democrats to cave to the Republican spending plans?
Oh, I doubt he wants the Democrats to cave to the Republicans. But the reality is that we're in a situation where the Republicans have the White House and have the House and the Senate. And they also think they have a plan for how they want to, basically cut services for people. So at some point, I think the Democrats are going to have to let the will of the people play out and let people actually see what happens when you cut services and you cut subsidies and people no longer have health care or access to benefits and be able to point that in the right direction as opposed to kind of keep standing in the way. I think it's a hard part. I think it's a very difficult challenge for Democrats to accept because I think that obviously we recognize some of the benefits that these services can provide, but the reality is that the majority of the U.S. population indicated that they thought this was the right approach, and I think people need to see what that right approach isn't so right, and you kind of have to let that play out a little bit.
So I'll go to Mark on this. Mark, the Republican proposal is that there just be a straight line extension based on the current spending levels, whereas Democrats want an increase in spending, particularly on health care and some other things. So are Democrats tying, shutdown risk to health care cuts? But isn't it their excessive demands on spending that's causing this impact?
Well, I think it really goes to the political dynamics that Chuck Schumer finds himself in, is to finding a path to avoid a primary in New York in 2 years. And my hope is that a number of centrist Democrats can work together with Republicans to find a compromise path forward. As you mentioned, the maximal demands that the Democrats have put forward really are not a good starting point for those negotiations.
Well, Mike, I'm going to go back to you real quick because obviously you thought that my question, the juxtaposition of my question may be questionable. So,
Well, no, I think that, that the Republicans have enough challenge trying to get this passed just with all the Republicans. And I think that becomes the issue. And I think if the Republicans were clearly interested in actually trying to engage the Democrats in some meaningful way, that they could put some offers on the table to do that. And I've yet to see any indication that that's the case. And I think that, so I think the Republicans have the challenge, and so we're trying, and I think they've unfortunately have done a reasonable job of trying to cast the Democrats as to blame because we've kind of put this element out there on health care. But the reality is, I'm not sure the Republicans think the Republicans have sufficient votes.
so would you agree with Governor Moore when he calls the GOP shutdown tactics cruel?
Oh, sure, but this is what people voted for. So I think I think people have to see that play it out.
So, Mark, I mean, I get a sense that Democrats are playing a dangerous game here, considering that if there is a shutdown, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Voigt, gets to choose how to keep the government functioning. And the word on the street is that there's going to be massive reductions in the civil workforce.
Well, that's certainly what a number of news accounts are reporting. I know it was in the Wall Street Journal today when we taped that. It reported on Vought's plans on that. But to Mike's point earlier about finding a common ground, there is also reporting that a number of centrist Democrats are frankly questioning the approach that Chuck Schumer is taking of holding out for this maximum position and are looking for a possible path forward. In my recollection, it is not possible to do it just with Republican votes. Some of the policy issues involved require basically a filibuster-proof vote. And so we're hopefully that calmer minds can prevail.
Well, I mean, Mike, the idea that we're in this game of economic chicken between the two parties, is not a good one,
No.
obviously. But there are those that suggest that if the Democrats compromise and cooperate with Republicans, that the base will be extremely, angry and take it out on the moderates that cross the aisle.
Oh, and that's probably true. I mean, we see that in both parties right now. You've got moderate Republicans who are fearful because they know they're going to get excoriated by the far right, and you've got moderate Democrats who are fearful they're going to get excoriated by the further left. And so there is no space right now for moderates to really play. And so how do you do that in a way that's going to be successful? And I think that if the Republicans are in fact in leadership positions, it's incumbent upon the Republicans to put forward some elements that actually can be acceptable to folks to try and get those votes. And I think I have to agree. I actually don't think that Chuck Schumer's approach is the right approach. I'm not sure that it makes sense. I think that you're trying to get a win that you'll never get credit for. And so I think ultimately you have to let these decisions rest at the feet of the Republican Party and let them deal with the consequences.
You know, and the last word, I'll take this. You know, if the Republicans, you know, if there is a shutdown and the Republicans do fire people when they come back, it's not just going to be a temporary layoff. It'll be a permanent firing, and all those people are going to have to reapply for their jobs, and they may not be able to get them.
But this is the excuse they've been looking for anyway. I mean, they've been trying to find ways to lay off more people, so this is just the excuse we're going to use today to do it.
Well, then why would Chuck Schumer or anybody in the Democratic leadership give them the ammunition to go ahead and do
It doesn't make a difference whether it's this one or the next thing. They'll find a way to do it because we've been doing it since we brought in Doge, and we're just trying to find ways to get rid of more people. And so the reality is that it's just, you're not giving them the ammunition. They're going to find the next excuse to do it. So
Mark, Mark, anything to add?
No, I think you summed it up. I mean, we'll see what happens in negotiation over the next couple of days.